Good evening, Assistant Chief Chris Butler. This evening at about 9:07 p.m., Police Officer J.C. Garcia had been patrolling the area around San Jose and University Boulevard when he observed a green Ford Escort. That vehicle behaved in a suspicious manner. It cut through a parking lot to avoid a traffic signal. As the officer began to follow the vehicle, he also noticed that there was some other traffic violations on the car. There was an expired tag. He continued to follow the car. The car actually pulled into what's being described as an ATM and then abruptly pulled away when the officer got behind him. The officer continued to follow him. I don't know the location of the ATM. Over to the plantation apartments here at 7061 South Old Kings Road. When they hit the front of the apartment complex, the officer activated his emergency equipment to conduct a traffic stop. The individual driving the car did not immediately stop, continued to drive through the apartment complex, but then turned into a parking space and stopped. The officer pulled in behind him. The officer got out of the car. The officer believed that the suspect was armed with some type of weapon. We believe that to be a handgun. As the officer, this is all happening very, very quickly and simultaneously. As the officer gets out of the car armed with his handgun, he begins to discharge his weapon. Like I said, this is simultaneously. He then recognizes that the suspect is not armed at all and pretty much directs his fire in another direction and discharges his handgun one time. The suspect was eventually taken into custody, and he's going to be facing some misdemeanor charges for some warrants or some driver's license violation, but nothing related to the actual shooting itself. And I'll take any question that you might have.
When exactly did he realize that he did not have a gun?
Pretty much at the same time as I described it. It's simultaneously. As he's coming out and pointing the handgun at the individual in the car, he's squeezing the trigger. He says during that process, through those fractions of a second, he realizes that the suspect or the individual's not armed and pretty much turns his handgun in another direction, and the gun's discharged.
That sounds so odd, though. How could he have looked at, in that short amount of time, he was able to look to see that there was no gun there? There
were some movements, and I can't really describe all the movements because we're still doing the investigation, so this is kind of early on in the investigation. But I can tell you that the suspect was not armed, and we're fortunate that the suspect arrested for the misdemeanors and everything, that he was not struck by any gunfire.
Was there a 6-year-old inside the car?
Yes, there was. There was a child in the car. My understanding is that child belonged to the individual that was driving the car, but not harmed.
Will the cop be facing any
disciplinary
charges?
Well, we're currently doing the investigation out here. As you all probably are aware, we do have a measure in place. We have a response to resistance review board where once this investigation is done, it'll go before a panel, and we'll actually decide if there's any violations of our policy.
Is the cop on paid administrative leave in the meantime?
No, we usually, with the shoot and misses, we have what we call our CISM officer, our critical incident stress management, who come out and communicate with the officer, make sure that the officer's okay. But it's not a matter of routine with the shoot and misses that they're placed on leave. So he has not at this point.
Is there anything you could tell us about Officer Garcia? How long has he been with you guys, that type of thing?
Yes, he's been on with us for 5 years, and this is his first shooting.
Any other questions?
Is that round recovered?
Don't know that yet. Still looking. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks.